Hello again, everyone. Michael Vosbein doing dual duty with Classic Drummer and Drummer Nation, and it is my pleasure and distinct honor to have as my guest today none other than Rick Allen from the classic band Def Leppard, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, humanitarian, you name it. You're such an impressive man. I'm genuinely honored to meet you, Rick.
Oh, that's very cool, man. Yeah, I'm sure it won't be the first.
I hope to see you again in concert. I've seen you before as well.
Cool.
Um, I'd like to touch on your art. I know that's why. Are you in Atlanta now, or where are you?
No, I leave for Atlanta tomorrow,
Okay.
and I normally try and hit as much press as I can. Morning shows, that kind of thing. So
Hmm.
it's fun. I love going to Atlanta.
Well, we love having you here when you get here. You're touring behind this time. It's not about music. It's your Wentworth Gallery tour based on your career as an artist.
That's right. Yeah. For the last 10 or more years, I've been doing this. I got a passion for it when I was a kid, and then my grandfather, he got me my first camera, and then of course it's well documented. I joined Def Leppard around about my 15th birthday, and then when my youngest daughter was born, I started painting again with her. So it kind of reignited my passion, and my wife encouraged me to show some of the pieces, and the one behind me is the latest one.
Beautiful, man. And we all miss Charlie Watts already.
Oh man, I know.
I never had the opportunity to meet him, but what a classic gentleman he was.
I was very honored. I got to meet him at a charity do in London at the Royal Albert Hall, and he was just such a cool guy. Just very quiet spoken, seemed very very grounded.
Hmm.
Um, more so than the rest of the band.
Who would have guessed that he would have been the first to pass from that band?
There is that. I'm sure. Yeah, it's just such a shock.
It
I
really
think
was.
I think it's the end of an era. You know,
Hmm.
somebody was saying the other day, maybe the Beatles and the Stones should get together, and then they can kind of make up the numbers.
It's your big business, I'm sure.
I
Um,
know.
let's speaking of way back, end of an era. Let's go back a little bit. We're going to jump around between your life as an artist and a musician, humanitarian, because they're all you. Um, would you say it's just a different representation of energy, maybe from sound to light?
I'd say so. I think the net result is, for me anyway, it's very therapeutic. Not too many people know that I suffer with PTSD. From going through extreme trauma, and yeah, I just it's a great way to stay in the moment, and whether that's music or whether that's art, I think that's where the therapeutic sort of element comes in, is just being in that place where you're not thinking about what's for dinner, or what you could have said better or done better. You're just in the moment, and I think that is the key to sort of that setting up sort of a healing environment.
Absolutely, that comes through in spades in your work. Um, Going back to the beginning, you were a kid when you joined Def Leppard. You left high school to perform on the biggest stages in the world.
It's true.
How did that affect your personality being? I mean, we don't have a lot of drummers anymore who are celebrities. You are truly a celebrity, and you've been a celebrity since you were a boy.
No, I know. To be honest, I didn't really think about it in terms of this is really special or this is really cool. I mean, it was, but I was just doing what I really enjoyed doing, and that was playing drums with a band. I'd been playing with local bands from the age of 10, and then becoming a member of Def Leppard it was huge because, this was really the first band that I'd been with that wrote their own songs. And I think that took it to another level.
Did you have any part of writing those songs, or who wrote most of the songs?
Well, all throughout our career, we've written together, but obviously, Joe being the lyricist, he tended to get more credits than most. But I think generally it's been really a great opportunity for me. I've been involved in the writing of many Def Leppard songs.
That's great. So I presume this is none of my business. The band shares in the royalties?
Yeah, we've always done that.
That's
It
terrific.
and it's all relative to how much work a person put into any given song.
Well, that's equitable.
Yeah,
So again, looking back, I don't want to dwell on this, but you went from the drummer's dream to the drummer's nightmare
yeah,
with your accident and losing an arm, of all things, for a drummer. Now, you were a celebrity, you were well off financially, you had made a contribution as a drummer. You could have rested on those laurels and moved on, but you chose a very difficult path, which was to reinvent yourself as a drummer, missing an arm. What,
yeah. It was
tell me
it.
about that.
Yeah, it was horrible at first. When I finally came round out of my coma, I think it must have been about a week or two after my accident. And when I started to realize what had actually happened to me, to be honest, I didn't really want to be here. I was very self-conscious. I felt defeated, but I think the thing that lifted me was my family and just hundreds of thousands of letters from everywhere, and just people in general that lifted me up. And I think it was at that point I discovered the power of the human spirit. And I broke my right arm really badly, so I had this piece of foam at the bottom of the bed. And my brother, he brought all the music that kind of inspired me growing up. And I realized that, literally just using my right and left foot, I could play all the basic rhythms that I'd ever played. And that was kind of the beginning. This friend of mine came in, he had an electronics store, and he saw what I was doing with my feet on this piece of foam. And he said, you know what? I could make you foot pedals and we could get you playing again. So the very first day that I came out of hospital, I went straight to his store, started playing these pedals that he built. And I mean, to be honest, after 5 minutes, I was done. I was exhausted, but it definitely planted a seed and gave me hope.
Absolutely. So the idea was to use your left foot to replace the things your left hand would have been doing, snare drum, bass drum, maybe. What did
Yeah.
you had several pedals over there. Was each one a different instrument?
Yes, and what I call a bass kit is basically left foot kick, left foot snare, left foot tom. Those three pedals coming down on the floor, and then play opposites with my right hand. So I could pretty much play a lot of what I played before. And then the cool thing about electronics is I could move stuff around. So for different songs, I would literally, move sound sources around. Like sometimes I'd put a kick drum on my right hand, and that was pretty handy. Just being able to do stuff, right hand, right foot, right hand, left foot, and be able to kind of move it around and try not necessarily thinking too much about conventional positions or
Mm-hmm.
conventional drumming.
Mm-hmm.
So it really gave me the opportunity to develop new sort of neural pathways in my brain and be able to express myself in a way that really I'd never been able to do before.
That's fascinating. And I presume new avenues, new rhythms, new things came up that you could do that you wouldn't do on a normal kit.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, more recently, I've gone back to playing more acoustic drums. It was nice during lockdown to kind of get back to what inspired me in the first place. So, I've basically got the Ferrari in the corner, and then I've got my acoustic kit set up. So, what I've found is that now I can play things on an acoustic kit that I could never play, when I had two arms playing an acoustic kit, simply because I'm just kind of rethinking, what it means to play drums.
Excellent. And that's opened new creative avenues and opportunities in itself.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
Now, the technology was pretty nascent back then. I mean, it's come a long way, has it not?
Yes, the first sort of brain or unit or drum producing sort of unit or sound producing unit that I got was actually custom made, and then I quickly moved on to Simmons. Simmons drums were around in those days. And it was only an SDS5, which was kind of like it's like a tone generator. Almost like a synthesizer, an analog synthesizer, but it got the point across. And then they started developing SDS7, which was a combination of real drum samples and analog circuitry. And over the years, it's just come on, like even further. I mean, these days, I'm using software-based equipment. I run it on my laptop. I'm able to store all my sounds and create dynamic curves using the software. So, it's, the look of the kit physically hasn't changed a whole lot. I mean, the general idea is the same, but the technology, the electronics have definitely come a long way.
That's where I was going with that. You use software, you said, not really the internal module sounds.
Exactly. So I'm able to customize sounds whichever way I want. It's it's a really it's a pretty advanced system. And I'm just happy that I've been able to to do this in such an advanced sort of way.
Now, how about cymbals? You still use natural cymbals exclusively, or?
Yes, I've found cymbals, real cymbals. It gives you the opportunity for this infinite dynamic. And as we both know, you can hit drums and cymbals in ways that create an infinite array of sounds. So the one thing I really didn't want to give up was the real cymbals. It was important to be able to express myself and add the subtleties,
Yeah, well, absolutely, yes. I have some experience with software and cymbals, being a cymbal guy. And there's a spot where cymbals break, I call it, where they open up.
Yes.
There all of a sudden you hear the whole fullness of the cymbal. It's very hard to deal with electronically.
It is. It's it's a very complicated array of samples if you want to create cymbals that sound, or cymbal sounds that are natural. Whereas, for live, it's great because, I've still got the volume from the cymbals to compete with, extremely loud guitars. So, I've been using the Zildjians now for many decades.
The recordings you do, are most of the sounds good to go when you're finished with the session, or is a lot of that done in post, or how does that all work out?
A lot of that's done in post. It really depends on the song. And like I say, these sounds have evolved over many years. So, I've got sounds that I really like, but every record we do, they seem to evolve in different ways. They're tending to sound less contrived these days, and a bit more, sort of what I would consider to be, real drum sounds.
So I will look at that sort of as Rick Allen 2.0, right? Started off as Rick Allen, then you were very successful. Then you had this horrible thing happen. You turned it into a much of a positive thing. Has opened new avenues for you. Pretty soon, you were back recording and touring with some of the biggest hits ever. And how long did it take for you to figure out? Yeah, this can work. I can be very successful with this approach.
Interesting question, because the information was in my head. I think all I needed to do was really just rechannel that information. And I found that my right hand, left foot, right foot took on some of the essence of my left arm. And I think that was kind of a natural phenomena that happened in my brain. For instance, when I played soccer as a kid, I was always very right-footed. But then when I came out of hospital and I finally started running around and kicking a football around, I realized that I could kick with my left foot way better than I used to be able to. So something happened. And it was less of a learning curve and more of a natural sort of phenomena. And then over time, the learning curve took over. And, I just keep developing on a theme.
Yes, absolutely. These are wonderful answers, and I appreciate your candor in all of this.
No problem.
Um, moving to Rick Allen 3.0. When did you become? I know it was always in your head, but at some point you became serious about being an artist. What would you call it? A graphic artist, a painter? How do you distinguish that from a musical artist?
Yeah, yeah. I guess some people would call it fine art. I never been formally trained or anything like that, but I picked up a few techniques that really helped me just express myself, in a way that I'd never done before. So it took a while, and there was a certain amount of fear around showing my art to other people. But my wife really persuaded me. She said, "You got to show this stuff." So I one of my first Legends pieces was actually Steve Clark, our original guitar player, and I sent a picture of it to my mum, and she sent it to Steve's mum, and Steve's mum loved it, and that was really a huge boost in confidence to continue painting. So
Hmm.
here I am.
Well, you say you had no formal training as a painter. Did you have formal training as a drummer?
I did. I actually worked with a guy called Kenny Slade. He was, in the local sort of area in Sheffield, and had played with Joe Cocker on many occasions, and actually recorded with Joe Cocker. So he was good. He got me reading, and that was a huge step forward, because
Hmm.
when I first suggested drum kit, my parents, they really didn't. They said, we can't afford a drum kit. And then about a week later, they were like, yeah, if you do some local jobs and, help around the house, then maybe we could get a drum kit on layaway. And that's exactly what they did. So the main thing was, they said, you've got to go for lessons, because we don't want to get a drum kit and then you lose interest. And I went for lessons with Kenny. And then sure enough, when I got my blue sparkle kit on layaway, I was able to play.
I love stories like that. Humble beginnings, working class background, hard work, personal sacrifice, dedication. I mean, I can see the tie-in from when you were a child to becoming a humanitarian later on. Can I punch up your some of your paintings to look at?
Yeah, of course.
pull it up full screen.
Yeah, that was one of the original ones using light art. So long exposure photography, and using light sticks to create imagery.
I was going to ask you
Um,
about the medium here. Um, Looking at this Angel and Icons, this is a series I see, and there's some recurring themes here: the American flag, the British flag, um, and a hand too. And I notice it's your left hand.
well, there was a time
Or is that your?
when
I'm sorry, that's your right hand. Yeah.
yeah, there was a time when you know there was a chance that I was going to lose my right arm as well because of infection, and I'd broken my right arm really badly. So the idea of the hand is really gratitude for the fact that I still have the one that I can use to express myself either musically or artistically or just in my everyday sort of life experience.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really paying homage to my right arm and how it's brought me this far.
Wow, that's wonderful. How about the fascination with flag imagery?
Flag imagery is really life experience. My experience growing up in England, my experience going to London, going to Buckingham Palace, all that kind of stuff, all the touristy stuff that I did, because I lived further north. I didn't get to London that often, so when I did, it was cool to take in all that sort of that imagery. And flags, I love flags because I can soften flags using hearts or peace signs or whatever other sort of ideas come to mind. So I love playing around with flags. And then, of course, when I first came to America in 1980, then I got the firsthand experience of America as opposed to through TV shows. So so then that was a new chapter, and again, all life experience, all things that I'd experienced, being in England and then eventually coming to America and then having the freedom to travel the world.
Now, I notice you have a series of artists as well. Here's Janice in a sort of a Warholish kind of a theme. Who were some of your mentors as an artist?
I loved how Salvador Dali, how his imagery changed as you stood, a different distance from the piece. So if you stood up close to one of his pieces, it would reveal one thing, and then when you stood back or you squint your eyes, it would reveal another. A lot of these images, particularly the legends, if you look close, you'll realize that they're just geometric shapes, and very posterized. But then when you stand back, your mind fills in the blanks, and that's one of the things that I really love. That's one of the things I really love about that particular technique.
Mm-hmm. And what were you going for with Charlie Watts behind you there?
That's really Charlie looking very content and moving from the earthly plane into the continuation of his journey. And that was the image that came up. That was the idea that came up when I started working on that piece.
Now you're on a tour with Wentworth Galleries, right?
That's right.
And tell me about that. What's the focus of that?
Focus of that is really, I'm not on tour with the band, so it's a great opportunity for me to, to take in all of the galleries. I've been in Philly, I've been in New Jersey, I've been in Atlanta coming up, I've been in Florida. So there are many galleries that I can visit that are all run by Wentworth Gallery.
Mm-hmm. And is there a charitable aspect to this as well?
Always, I inspire our wounded warriors, our vets, and they inspire me. You know, just what they've been through, and you know, it's yeah, the similarities. You know, even though I didn't go through combat trauma, I went through trauma all the same, and a lot of us are traumatized in one way, shape, or form, and I realized some of the similarities, some of the behavioral stuff, particularly surrounding PTSD and traumatic brain injury. So it seemed very natural for me to want to help our vets, our you know, our wounded warriors.
And when you say our, you mean the world in general or specific countries or?
Well, I live here. I live here in the States. I settled here in 91. So I tend to be the kind of person that you know, I see things in front of me and I want to help on a more sort of local level. And that's exactly what I've been able to do. And that's what the art has been able to do for me also.
Yet another amazing aspect of your character.
Cool.
What is the Raven Drum Foundation?
Raven Drum Foundation, myself and my wife, we set it up in 2001, 2002. We were working with many different parts of the population, incarcerated youth, women's shelters, cancer survivors. And then in 2006, I went to Walter Reed Army Medical Center in the DC area, and I saw the level of suffering with our warriors. So I got on the phone with my wife after that, and I said, you know, I'd really like to refocus our attention on our warriors, and that's really when we started to turn our sights more on, you know, the suffering that was going on here at home, you know, in the States.
Mm-hmm. And Project Resiliency, is that through the Wounded Warriors?
That was a program we set up that originally focused on our wounded warriors after that visit to Walter Reed. And now, you know, people are so familiar with Raven Drum. It's all under the same umbrella, as it were.
Mm-hmm. As well as One Hand Drum Company. What is that?
I think it's a way for us to communicate. You know, it obviously describes me pretty well.
One in a field of one on that. By the way, this is a tangential thing, but I went through a period where for a couple of years, I took it upon myself to ask everyone I interacted with one question. And this was all walks of life, all income, races, everything. And the question was, can you name a drummer, living or dead? And your name came up more than anyone's.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I would have thought John Bonham would have come up. You know, I'm very fortunate to know Jason, and I keep in touch with him on a regular basis. I think John continues to inspire me. You know, for me, that's probably, you know, probably the most famous drummer in my mind.
Well, I think your work subsequent to the drums has a lot to do with that. People recognize and admire you for all these other things.
You know, it's been a great vehicle. You know, just showing up and talking about my story. It's a great deal because, you know, because people really respond to it. And I think they trust me and they feel as though they know me simply because I've been in, you know, in the limelight, as it were.
Remarkable. Just remarkable. I have so many elements of things I can ask you about. Now, you've been off for the last couple of years based on the pandemic.
Yeah,
And what's coming up? Is there a tour in 2022?
let's hope so. We keep postponing and kind of superimposing basically the same tour, on the next year. So hopefully, 2022 will be the year that we actually get out there.
Now let's reflect, I'll ask you to reflect for a moment on today's music industry. You've seen it change dramatically. I mean, you guys predated the whole digital revolution and the distribution of music changing and the whole YouTube generation and all. What are your thoughts on the industry itself? I mean, I don't think anybody's ever going to sell the amount of albums you guys did uh, again.
No, I mean, at a certain point, I thought it was kind of strange that people thought that just because it was on the internet, it was free.
Mm-hmm.
And we put a lot of time, effort, and financial resource into creating, music. And for me, it was quite disappointing that people felt as though, because it was on the internet, it was free, or because, there was somebody distributing music that wasn't their own. I equate it to walking into an art gallery, taking one of the pieces off the wall and walking out the door with it. You're probably not going to get away with it. You know what I mean?
Nor should
whereas, whereas people tend to see music as kind of throwaway, which is very disappointing. Music has a magical power, and well, not just a power. Music has magical powers. People's life experience is locked up in music. When they hear a song, it takes them back to a moment in time when maybe it was their first time doing something, not always something they should have been doing, but that's the one fantastic thing about music is, you listen to something and it takes you back. It takes you to a memory way back, and it's almost like you're in it, and I think that's the thing that people forget about music is the magic of it.
It touches their lives in ways we don't really understand.
Yes, for sure.
I had a prof said once, you can't not hear music. It goes straight to your soul,
It's true. It's true. I mean, well played violin or viola or, cello, well played piano, a gospel choir. Why is it that every time I hear that, I cry?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's something just magical about it.
That's it, the magic. Speaking of magic, it must have been a magical moment to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
For sure.
Tell me about that experience.
Yeah, I mean, it had been on the cards for many years. I think we'd been nominated, but I think the thing that really hit us was the sheer volume of fan vote, to the point where it was the largest fan vote in the history of the Hall of Fame. We always felt that we didn't get enough love from the industry for whatever reason. But then standing on that stage and seeing rock and roll royalty sitting there in front of us and getting a standing ovation, that to me was a huge gift. That coupled with the largest fan vote, it really made me realize that it was such a big deal.
Oh, it's a very big deal. And all you have to do to get in there is come up with a few albums like that one or that one.
I know.
Or that one, and sell tens of millions of records and tour constantly around the world and impress and delight millions of fans. What are you most proud of your career so far? And notice I said so far because you're still cooking at it.
No, we are. We're still, we're still pushing out. We still keep coming up with new music, and I think the thing that I'm most proud of is the fact that I can do this at this level and maintain my sanity and support my family. It's been such a beautiful gift that our fans have given us, and it's this wonderful two-way street. Where we produce this music and people show appreciation, and I think that's very special.
Well, I think you're very special. Rick Allen, the drummer, the musician, and they're not always the same thing. Right? I like musicians who happen to be drummers, as so many other drummers have said. You certainly qualify for that. So the musician, the drummer, the band member, the father, the husband, the person who reinvents himself continuously, who's faced all kinds of amazing challenges and walked through them bravely, who humanitarian. I mean, the accolades don't stop. Rock and Roll Hall of Famer.
That's fantastic, man. That's very kind of you.
It's my honor to have spent some time with you, Rick.
Cool, man. I look forward to see you again. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
All right. Hey, have a good day.